Hey everybody, Mike Miller with the Herald Times, columnist Jeremy Price, coming to you from Assembly Hall once again, second time this season, final exhibition time after a
And
70.
we're all grateful for that.
God, please.
I can say.
Yeah, I think everyone here. I think Tom Crean is. I think the Indiana Hoosiers are. I think everyone is ready for actual real basketball. And not this exhibition business. Anyway, though, it was another Indiana win, as you might expect, 73-62 over Bellarmine, number 4 ranked team in Division II.
The good news is that Indiana did not pull in Iowa, which lost to the number 1 ranked Division II team
Right.
A few days ago. So there's that.
There's that. But there was also another part, a part we've kind of discussed ad nauseum here in the past, especially the last few months. I'm being distracted right now by a very awful colleague of ours. Anyway, defensively, this was a case of really, I think we saw a lot of good from Indiana. We saw a side of them that they can really aspire to be for longer stretches of time. There was a 18-0 run over an 8-minute span in the first half, which really, frankly, was probably the difference in this game. And then there was the second half, and probably it was probably more like a 21-22, the final 21-22 minutes of this game.
Yes.
Were rather 2014-15 Indiana-ish. It was rather putrid, rather really. There are a few words we could throw at this. Bad is the bottom line. Not very good. Detached. Not what you really want to see. Then again, it is exhibition basketball.
Yes.
It's not a cause for overreaction, but still some of the same problems though that we've seen. You can take from here. We both kind of touched on this, but I'll let you take the floor.
It was a very Dickensian performance defensively, in that it was the best of times and the worst of times.
Yeah.
During that first half stretch, they had that 18-0 run. Yogi referenced 11 straight stops. I actually went back and counted. I came up with 12 straight stops, which was pretty impressive. The positioning wasn't always good, but the activity was, and especially against a team like Bellarmine, where Indiana's got the superior athletes and skill, just that activity alone can do a lot of damage and cover up a lot of flaws. And I think that's going to be the case even going against better competition going forward this year. But then it was like, there was some free substitution at the end of the first half, and I think that had something to do with the little run Bellarmine had at the end of the first half. But it just seemed hard for Indiana to get the momentum back in the second half and really get that same kind of defensive consistency and that same kind of defensive activity. And when they did get it ever so briefly, it was interesting because they actually went back to the lineup we saw a lot last year with Robert Johnson, Yogi Ferrell, James Blackman, Troy Williams, and Colin Hartman on the floor. And that was the lineup after it got down. What did it get down to 7?
7, about 2 minutes into the second half.
And they got it back up to 15 just, within a couple of minutes. Just basically a little more activity out of that group for whatever reason. Maybe it was just because it was a small lineup, but overall, that last 21 and a half minutes, I think I added it up. They were outscored 49 to, what I come up with, 38? 49-38.
Yeah, because it was the final minute 20 of the first half. Indiana didn't score. It was like 7 straight points, 7 unanswered points to close the half for Bellarmine, and then you had three-pointers on consecutive possessions to open the second half.
Yeah. So, giving up 42 in the second half and 49 over 21 and a half minutes to Bellarmine is definitely not a trend in the right direction if you're Indiana defensively.
Mm-hmm. Let's hit some bright spots first, because there were some bright spots. Not to overplay anything, because we're not going to do this. As we said last week, we're not going to overanalyze these exhibition games. 21 points from Yogi Ferrell, 8 rebounds. Troy Williams had 20 and also had 8 rebounds. We kind of touched on this, just the general activity. I thought Troy Williams was especially active and really effective defensively, too, during that first half run. I think there was one point, there was a steal right around here at half court. He's racing back in transition, gets a block. The ball kind of scoots over to the IU bench. He's racing over, grabs it, and just before he falls into the bench, he throws a home run pass down to James Blackman for an easy layup. A lot of effort, a lot of 1-2 from Troy Williams tonight. A lot of that.
That was a very vintage Troy Williams type of play, And I think it's a little bit of a double-edged sword when you talk about Troy and Yogi tonight, because the good thing is that Troy and Yogi were Troy and Yogi, and they were superior players, superior athletes on this court tonight, and they showed it. The bad news is that Indiana actually had to kind of rely on that to get the job done tonight, and you would have liked to have seen a little more balance, a little more contributions, and I think that's still a work in progress very much. And again, as we've said many times, exhibition game, that's what these things are for, to kind of figure those things out, to reveal the flaws and sort of show people where they need to step up. Tom Crean talked a lot about the competition on this team and the desire to get it too deep, which he's mentioned several times in this preseason. And I thought tonight very clearly showed that they're not anywhere close to there yet. I mean, if you just look at the minute breakdown, you basically had 8 guys in double-figure minutes, I think. 18-plus minutes for 8 guys, actually, or something close to that.
16 plus, yeah.
Bielefeld only played 16.
Yeah, and
Brian
so
only
Brian
played 16. Yeah, we'll get back to that in a minute.
Yeah.
But again, you've got kind of a clearly defined top 8 at this point, and then you've got OG and Jawan sort of chipping in a little bit here and there, and you've got other guys that can come in and give them a couple minutes here and there for whatever purposes might be necessary. But for the most part, it's definitely a work in progress. I'm really not sure this team is quite capable of getting to the 10 deep part this year, but again, maybe that's not a regular thing, and I think Crean sort of alluded to that. It may not be 10 deep every night, but that there's that option that guys could possibly step up depending on matchups, depending on injuries, foul trouble, whatever's going on. There's the potential to go 10 deep and find some results.
Yeah, which of course would be relying a bit on some of these freshmen. Obviously Thomas Bryant, but really not a very good night for the 3 freshmen, Brian, Morgan, and Anunoby. Brian only played 16 minutes at 8 points. He sat though for about 8 minutes.
10 minutes in the first half.
Yeah.
Really most of his damage was done in the first 10 minutes of the game. Yeah. 8 points, 4 rebounds. I think that pretty much all came in the opening stretch, pretty much. And then when Bellarmine made their run to start the second half, his perimeter defense, or lack thereof, was definitely exposed in terms of being able to cover the ball screen and being able to keep an eye on where his man was. As a matter of fact, I think it was the first or second, it was very early in the game, his man cut through the lane and Thomas turned his head to look at the ball, and boom, the pass goes in right behind him and he commits the first foul. And so that was sort of an enlightening process. He wound up sitting, I think, about 9-minute stretch in the second half before he came back in, and then was scored on the first possession. He was back in the game. So things did not go real well for Thomas Bryant. He looked very much like a freshman tonight, and there's going to be nights that happens this year. What Indiana hopes is to minimize the number of nights that does happen.
Well, that'll do it for exhibition play, thank goodness, as we said. Eastern Illinois here Friday night to begin the regular season. Interesting quote from Troy Williams. Obviously, this was getting outscored, 42-38 in the second half is not going to cut it for Indiana this year. But he's saying, look, that's a good team, number 4 in Division II, but this is not Big Ten basketball. It's not even Creighton, who they're going to see next Thursday. I mean, very quickly, I'm not sure how good Creighton's actually going to be this year, but they're Creighton. And they're going to bring
Big East team.
They're going to bring in a higher caliber, higher level of basketball here very quickly, very soon, in a matter of week and a half. So
right.
Very quickly, this kind of speeds up, and we're going to see Indiana against. This was a very good quality exhibition schedule, but very quickly these games are going to start counting, and you can't afford to see nights like this very often this year.
Yeah, I'm not sure what Friday night against Eastern Illinois is going to bring. That in some ways that's almost a continuation of the exhibition season, I think, a little bit, but it counts, and so for that reason alone, there needs to be a little more attention to detail, a little more focus, a little more intensity, all those things in greater measure.
Yeah.
As the season kicks off.
It's a way to put it. We saw a little bit of that tonight. We saw the good side of Indiana, something they can aspire to be for longer stretches of time this year. It's just a matter of getting that consistency, getting guys going at the same time. We'll see how that develops over the coming weeks, but we'll have real basketball to talk about in the next few days. Until then, guys, thanks so much. Oh, by the way, big recruiting week this week. Mario Kegler announcing Wednesday. Deron Davis will announce Thursday. Sounds like Indiana's in good shape with Davis. Not sure. Kegler's still a bit of a grab bag. I'm not sure anyone can really read that one, but
and I think it'll be interesting to see what Kegler does, because there has been a little bit of talk about Kegler and Davis wanting to play together. So I think if Kegler goes IU or Mississippi State, that could put a little more intrigue in the Deron Davis decision. If he goes another direction altogether, I think he's got like 5 finalists. So who knows? If he goes in some other direction, then I think then Davis is maybe a little more Indiana's to lose. But
yeah,
who knows? Never know with these high school kids.
You never know.
They may not even know themselves.
I wouldn't know. Anyway, signing period opens Wednesday. By the time we regroup on Friday evening, we'll have a much better idea of where this 2016 recruiting class, very important 2016 recruiting class, what that makeup is and how it kind of shakes out from here. Till then, guys, thanks. We'll catch up soon.